Good morning, everyone. I hope you're ready to start your day with a topic that affects us all, whether we realize it or not. Today, we're breaking down a word you hear everywhere, on the news, in conversations, and even at the market: inflation. But what does it really mean? Simply put, inflation is the rate at which prices for goods and services rise over time. Imagine your morning coffee or a loaf of bread costing more than it did last year, or even last month. That's inflation at work, quietly changing the value of your money. When inflation is high, every pound in your wallet buys a little less than before. This means families have to stretch their budgets further just to cover the basics: food, transportation, school supplies, and more. A small amount of inflation is actually a sign of a healthy, growing economy, encouraging people to spend and invest. But when prices rise too quickly, it can create real challenges for everyone. In these times, families struggle to keep up with the rising cost of living, and businesses find it tough to plan for the future or invest in new opportunities. Inflation isn't just a number for economists or something you read about in financial reports. It's a force that shapes how we shop, how we save, and how we plan for tomorrow. It can even influence decisions like whether to buy a home, start a business, or send your children to school. That's why understanding inflation is so important. It helps us make sense of what's happening in the economy and what it means for our daily lives. When you know how inflation works, you can make smarter choices about spending, saving, and preparing for the future. It's not just about numbers, it's about real people and real lives. Right now, there's big news coming out of Egypt that could signal a positive change for millions of people. We'll break down what's happening, why it matters, and how it could impact you and your family. Whether you're a student, a parent, or a business owner, these changes could shape your future. Our goal today is simple: to make sense of inflation and give you the facts you need to understand what's really going on. By the end of this video, you'll have a clearer picture of Egypt's economy, how inflation affects your daily life, and what these numbers mean for your wallet and your future plans. So, are you ready to dive in and learn how inflation shapes our world? Let's get started and discover what these changes mean for you. Here's the headline: Egypt's annual inflation rate dropped to 11.9% in January 2026. That's a significant shift for the country, and it's making headlines for good reason. For months, Egyptians have been feeling the pinch of rising prices on everything from food to fuel, so this new data brings a sense of cautious optimism. That's down from 12.3% in December, a real sign that price increases are slowing. For everyday people, this means the cost of basic goods isn't rising as quickly as before, and families can start to breathe a little easier when budgeting for groceries or household needs. This is Egypt's lowest inflation rate since September last year, and nearly a 4-year low. It's a turning point after a long stretch of economic uncertainty, and experts are watching closely to see if this trend continues in the coming months. After years of rapid price hikes, this slowdown is a welcome relief for families and businesses. Small shop owners in particular are finding it a bit easier to plan ahead, and households are starting to feel a glimmer of hope that their money will stretch further. Think of it like a car finally slowing after racing downhill. Things feel more stable. The pace of change is less frantic, and people can start to adjust to a new normal, rather than constantly scrambling to keep up with rising costs. The key takeaway: prices are still rising, but not as quickly. Inflation hasn't disappeared, but the slowdown means less pressure on wallets, and that's a step in the right direction for millions of Egyptians. This positive momentum builds confidence in the economy. Investors and business owners are starting to feel more secure, and that can lead to more jobs and opportunities in the future. It's a sign that tough measures to control inflation are starting to work. The government and central bank have made difficult decisions, and now, the results are beginning to show up in people's daily lives. For many, it's the first real hope that stability is returning. There's a sense that the worst may be over, and people are looking forward to a more predictable future. So, what does this mean for your daily life? Let's break down how these changes could affect your shopping, your savings, and your sense of security in the months ahead. So, what does lower inflation mean for you? It's a question that affects every Egyptian household, whether you're budgeting for groceries, planning for your children's education, or simply trying to make ends meet each month. Lower inflation means your money stretches further. Grocery bills and fuel costs aren't rising as quickly as before. You might notice that the price of bread, vegetables, or even a taxi ride isn't jumping up every week. This gives you a bit more breathing room in your daily life. Families can manage their budgets with less stress and uncertainty. You can plan ahead, knowing that your expenses are more predictable, and you're less likely to be caught off guard by sudden price hikes. For businesses, stable inflation makes it easier to plan for the future, set fair prices, and invest in growth. Shop owners and entrepreneurs can focus on expanding their services or hiring new staff, rather than worrying about unpredictable costs. That can lead to more jobs, higher wages, and a healthier economy overall. When businesses thrive, they create opportunities for everyone, whether you're looking for work or hoping for a raise. Lower inflation also boosts confidence. People feel better about spending, saving, or even starting a new business. When you trust that your money will hold its value, you're more likely to invest in your future. And for savers, it protects the value of your hard-earned money. You don't have to worry as much about your savings losing value over time. When inflation drops closer to bank interest rates, your savings hold their worth, making it easier to plan for big goals, like buying a home, sending your kids to university, or preparing for retirement. This encourages saving and long-term planning, which helps both families and the economy. When people save and invest, it creates a cycle of growth and stability for everyone. In short, lower inflation brings relief, stability, and new opportunities for all Egyptians. It means less worry, more hope, and a brighter future for families, workers, and businesses alike. It's a win for everyone, no matter your background or where you live. But how did we get here? Let's take a closer look at the journey that brought us to this point. To understand today's progress, let's look back. Just a few years ago, Egypt faced soaring inflation. Prices for basics like food and fuel shot up, straining families. Global supply chain issues and tough economic reforms, like currency devaluations, made things worse. The central bank responded with aggressive interest rate hikes to slow spending and cool inflation. It was a tough but necessary move, even though it made borrowing harder. Now, with inflation at 11.9%, we've moved from crisis to stability. This turnaround took patience, resilience, and smart policy. The numbers show Egypt is finally on a steadier path. So, why is inflation falling now? First, food prices have stabilized. Great news since food is a big part of most budgets. Better harvests and steadier supply chains have helped. There's also a base effect. Since prices jumped so much last year, this year's increases look smaller by comparison. The central bank's earlier interest rate hikes are working, slowing demand and easing price pressure. A more stable Egyptian pound has also helped, keeping import costs in check. Less imported inflation means less pressure on local prices. All these factors combined are finally bringing inflation down. It's a team effort: policy, markets, and a bit of good luck. But did experts see this coming? Actually, yes. Analysts predicted this drop. Most experts forecasted inflation would land around 11.7% to 11.9% for January. The fact that the real number matched their predictions is a good sign. It means Egypt's economy is becoming more predictable and less volatile. Predictability helps businesses, government, and investors make better decisions. Experts base their forecasts on stable food prices, the base effect, and the central bank's policies. The alignment between forecasts and reality builds confidence in Egypt's economic management. For investors and credit agencies, this is a green light. It shows Egypt is on the right track. So, what's next for Egypt's economy? Lower inflation opens the door to stronger, more sustainable growth. Businesses can invest and hire, while consumers feel safer spending. This stability attracts foreign investors, bringing in capital for new projects and jobs. A steady inflation rate could even improve Egypt's credit rating, lowering borrowing costs for the government. That means more money for healthcare, education, and social programs. But challenges remain. 11.9% is still high, and global risks could shake things up. The government and central bank must stay vigilant to keep inflation trending down. The goal: make sure stability benefits everyone, not just a few. With smart policies, Egypt can build on this momentum. Now all eyes are on the Central Bank of Egypt. With inflation falling, many expect the bank to consider cutting interest rates at its meeting this Thursday. Lower rates would make borrowing cheaper for businesses and consumers, boosting investment and spending. But the bank must be careful, not to cut too soon and risk inflation rising again. They'll look for clear evidence that the trend is real and lasting. A rate cut would mark a shift from fighting inflation to encouraging growth. Whatever the decision, it will set the tone for Egypt's economy this year. It's a pivotal moment. The world is watching. To sum up, Egypt's inflation rate dropping to 11.9% is a big deal. It means price hikes are slowing, bringing relief to families and businesses. This progress is the result of tough decisions, stable food prices, and a stronger currency. Experts saw it coming, and the numbers confirm Egypt is on a more stable path. Lower inflation could spark growth, attract investment, and create jobs. The central bank's next move, possibly a rate cut, could accelerate this momentum. Challenges remain, but the trend is positive. Understanding these changes helps you plan for the future. Egypt's economy is turning a corner. Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned for more updates.